All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to another extra SROS video. So the Atlanta Hawks are on a losing streak right now. You're probably hearing it maybe online, maybe you're watching the games. Starting to hear a little bit more rumblings about maybe Atlanta is going to think about trading Trae Young this year at the 2026 deadline. He could be a free agent in the 2026 offseason. He has a $48 million player option that I always thought he was going to decline. I guess that's not a guarantee right now, but it does feel like Atlanta is disappointing this year. They're underwhelming, and they may look to reshuffle this roster. And yeah, today we're going to be going through the spot track trade machine and kind of looking through all these trade ideas. And I think when you look at historical deals that are very similar to this, you got to look at two trades that happened in the last 2 years, kind of at the 25 deadline and a little bit before the 2024 trade deadline. So the most recent one was Brandon Ingram, who was a free agent at the end of the 2025 season. The Pelicans lost a ton of value because he was one, injured, and two, was on that expiring contract. So what they essentially got was Bruce Brown, an expiring contract, Kelly Olynyk to make the money work financially, who they eventually flipped to Washington. He was included in that Jordan Poole, CJ McCollum trade. They got a 2026 first round pick, which we know that they ended up giving back to Indiana for Indiana's first round pick this year, which they also moved up in the draft to go get Derek Queen and a 2031 second. That was for Brandon Ingram, who was one hurt and on an expiring contract. Ingram also came with a $40 million price tag. Like, he eventually got that 3-year, $120 million from the Raptors. If you're trading any type of assets for a guy, you would like to get that extension done. So they do that. I mean, they're really, like, the most intriguing thing here was a first round pick from the Pacers that they eventually traded for pick 23 in the draft right before Halliburton tore his Achilles. Great deal there, Joe Dumars. And then the other one happened in the 2024 season. This was Pascal Siakam going from the Raptors to the Pacers. Siakam was also a free agent at the end of the year. I think at the time Siakam got traded and at the time Ingram got traded, Siakam had a little bit more value. He went for Bruce Brown, matching salary, didn't really play much for the Toronto Raptors. Kyra Lewis, matching salary. Jordan Nwora, matching salary. 2 first-round picks in 2024, which I believe the Raptors used one of them to go out and get Ochai Agbaji. I want to say that's what they ended up doing. And then that pick, I think, ended up being Isaiah Collier. And then they traded a 2020 and then they also got a first round pick that might have been Jacoby Walter, and then a conditional 2026 first rounder, which inevitably ended up getting traded here to the New Orleans Pelicans. So that is kind of the framework we are working with here today. It makes it interesting, though, because Trae does have that $48.9 million player option, which I don't really know if that helps his trade value or if that hurts it, because you got to kind of treat this as an expiring contract. So I think if you're actually realistically thinking about trading for Trae Young, you have to be in agreement that he opts in and then you extend, or he opts out and he extends. Either way, you need to think that you're going to sign Trae Young from his age 28 season to an age 33 season or something like that. The Atlanta Hawks this year have been disappointing, to say the least. I think when you look at the whole Eastern Conference landscape here, they are the most disappointing team in the East in 2026. You could have the Clippers, the Kings, the Pelicans, the Mavericks, maybe the Blazers in a way with their injuries, like some of the more disappointing teams this year. But I think in the East, it's Atlanta 100%, given that, yes, Trae Young has missed some time, and yes, Kristaps has missed some time, but 18th in net rating, 19th in defensive rating, 16th in offensive rating. It's kind of disappointing. Now, that can also come back on just players this year. Like Trae Young, I think, is now 2-8 when he's played. They didn't have Trae or Jalen Johnson against OKC, but yeah, he's 2-8 in the 12 games. Kristaps has missed about 20 games this year. Dyson Daniels is shooting 12% from 3. It feels like Zachary Sachet is taking a step back, and it feels like everybody has kind of been underwhelming in a way, outside of like maybe Onyeka Okongwu, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Jalen Johnson. And we're also learning that you can't really have Jalen Johnson and Trae Young on the court at the same time. If we look at, it's a very small sample size between their two net rating. It's a negative 12.9 in 178 minutes, which isn't like the smallest sample size in the world. Like, we're getting there in a way. And yeah, there's a decent swing when they're both on the court. They're a little bit better when it's just Johnson, a little bit better when it's just Trae Young. But yeah, these guys have not been good defensively at the moment. So we're looking at this team. Kristaps could be a free agent. Trae could be a free agent. Luke Kennard, that signing hasn't really gone their way, but there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal. So there's a couple things here for Atlanta, right? If they're going to think about trading Trae Young, that basically, I would say, rules them out trading for Anthony Davis, which has also been linked. I mean, I don't know if there's a Trae Young, Anthony Davis trade. We can get there. Maybe there's a third team involved. Trae Young is from Texas. He is a point guard that Dallas could use, but they have Kyrie Irving coming back, and I don't know, kind of Kyrie and Trae Young doesn't make sense whatsoever. You'd be making that trade because Trae is younger than Kyrie and AD, and then you trade Kyrie, which we'll cross that bridge when we get there if Kyrie's actually going to get traded this year. So yes, maybe I'll go through an AD Trae Young trade, or maybe we get a third team involved. But when you're looking at the landscape, I think there's fewer Trae Young teams than you could think. Now, there could be a Zachary Sachet AD trade. Like, if I was going to say the Hawks are buyers, there's two guys they would buy for. Anthony Davis, which has already been rumored, and then there's the Giannis thing. But we don't know if Giannis is going to get traded. It's always made sense for Atlanta to be in the Giannis talks because they own that unprotected swap between Milwaukee and them in 26. They have the swap worse between Milwaukee and New Orleans in 27, I believe. Yeah, this pick right here, which I think is from the DeJounte trade. So if you were going to be aggressive, like, you're getting AD for a matching salary of Kristaps Porzingis. You're probably throwing Luke Kennard in the deal. And then I don't think that works financially. And then you're probably throwing Reese Shea in the deal. And that feels like a lot. I don't know. So that doesn't even work out financially either. Dallas is hard capped. Okay, but 800K. So do you actually have to trade like a 4-for-1 to get Anthony Davis? Is that how it works? Dallas is hard capped by the apron. Or I guess they're open, or they're a little bit over here. So I don't even know what you have to include to get, like, I don't think you want to trade. Okay, that actually works. So you could do Kristaps and you could do Reese Shea for Anthony Davis. That actually works. So, like, maybe that happens, and I think that's actually a pretty good trade for Dallas. KP would get rerouted elsewhere. And then you're going AD, who helps out your defense if AD's playable. The problem is he's been hurt this year, comes back, hurts his groin on Christmas Day. And it's really tough to figure out or think you're going to get consistent minutes from AD. That is a $50 million contract you would have on the books for next year. You don't know if Trae's going to be on the books for next year. Maybe you think about that. But yeah, we'll potentially get into a Trae Young, Anthony Davis trade. So when you're looking at the Eastern Conference, who would realistically trade for Trae Young? So this top row, Boston, no. Could they use a point guard? Maybe. Not Trae Young. That's out of the equation. Charlotte, not happening in the division. Trae Young has arguably been, I mean, if you go to this like franchise page here on Basketball Reference, where is he in terms of win shares all time? He's actually not even in this top 10. Okay, maybe he's not as important as I think. Or, I don't know, Trae Young's been there since 2018. It does feel like it's a new era of, or it's been this era of Atlanta Hawks basketball. So they get drafted in 2018 where they were bad. They weren't good his rookie year. They weren't good his sophomore year. They draft essentially like DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish this year, and not Nickeil Alexander-Walker, DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. At the time, that felt like a good draft because of Cam Reddish's potential. 2020, they take a Kungwu. 2021, we know that they beat Philadelphia. They beat New York, they beat Philadelphia, and you know what? They have a consistent or a competitive series against Milwaukee. They end up losing in 6. They actually won game 1 by 3, get blown out in game 2, lose game 3. It was tied 2-2 at one point, and then Milwaukee ended up winning games 5 and game 6, and then we have gone backwards since. They do win 2 more games in a longer season. This was a 72-game season. We go to 82 games. They go 43-39. They lose in round number 1, I believe, to the Heat this season. They lose to the Heat this season, and then they lose in round number 1 the year later, going 41-41 to the Boston Celtics. They fire Nate McMillan that year, and then 2024, it's like playing tournament galore. They're kind of the staple of the playing tournament, and I do feel like this Trae Young 8-year window or 9-year window, I guess 8 years, right? Yeah, 8 years is about to come to a close. So let's go through these teams now. The first team, I think, is Brooklyn. We could talk about. Brooklyn does not own their first round pick in 2027. So I think they could look to get ahead of the market, kind of like Toronto did with Brandon Ingram, with Indiana did with Pascal Siakam. I mean, I guess Toronto, yeah, so like I guess that could make sense in a way. What does that mean? Okay, you can actually look at stuff that recently trades that actually have these players involved, which is interesting. So for Brooklyn, like I said, they don't have their first round pick. I know they just drafted a ton of point guards, but I do feel like you can kind of make it work with the point guards they drafted in a way, because I'm not super sold on Nolan Traore or Ben Saraf being like these high volume shooters, maybe at any point in their careers. They're kind of ball handlers, and I think they could be fine enough backup point guards to Trae Young. Yegor Dorman has been the most, I don't know if he's been the best rookie. Probably has been the best rookie, him or Drake Powell this year for Brooklyn. And he's been a really good three-point shooter. If you're kind of watching Yegor, he's not a downhill attacker. He's not a driver at all. He's kind of been a catch-and-shoot guy. Likes to run some pick and roll. But it's been very heliocentric at times with Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Thomas. You're not really changing Yegor's role going into next year. And he'd kind of be like this off-ball shooter which is crazy, because if you watched Yegor at BYU, was not a good shooter whatsoever. And I did not really buy the shot. And then he was killing the shots in the workouts, and then you're kind of hearing people like, shout out to League Him. He kind of like mentioned that as well. He had a great workout and he was knocking down his threes, and then he has a great summer league. he has a good preseason, and you're like, okay, Yegor can kind of shoot now. Maybe you tweak his mechanics. The form doesn't look too different, I would say, from BYU. And then, yeah, he's been a good three-point shooter this year. So I don't really think that should hinder you trading Trae Young. If it's really just matching salary, like, we got to find our Bruce Brown. It's funny that Bruce Brown was in both these trades. I mean, Terrence Mann was an Atlanta Hawk. Okay, so actually Atlanta can't reacquire him, which is hilarious. I don't think you would want to trade Michael Porter Jr. Now, they do have some wiggle room in a way. Like, because the Nets do have some cap space. Like, say I do Day'Ron Sharpe and Zaire Williams financially. Now, you still have to get $24 million. So it is really tough to do this trade right now. Like, Claxton would maybe have to get rerouted to a third team, theoretically. So let's say that, like, Claxton gets rerouted to a third team, even though you'd probably want Trae Young, Michael Porter Jr., Claxton all here. Okay, so maybe that's where Terrence Mann gets rerouted to a different team because Atlanta can't reacquire him. But something like that, it's not matching salary because Claxton's a good asset. And then you're giving them maybe one of the New York picks, right? Like, not a high-end pick. We all expect the Knicks to probably be good in 2027. I think, like, okay, the 2029 first we'd like to hold on to from New York. Definitely the 2031 first. But the Knicks are good this year. I don't think they're going to be much worse, if any, in 2026, given their whole core outside of Mitchell Robinson is under contract. So, yeah, you're getting kind of matching salary in a way and a first-round pick for Atlanta. This, I don't really know if Nick Claxton is the matching salary they need because you have Kristaps, you have a Kungwu, you have Newell, you have Gay. Now, Claxton is probably the best defender in a way out of all those guys I mentioned. I probably still prefer Kristaps as rim protection, but I can't really trust Kristaps to be out there. Nick Claxton does have that value. So, yeah, this could be something to work on. I don't know if you're trying to pair up Trae Young and Michael Porter Jr., both from the 2018 draft class. I don't know if Michael Porter Jr. intrigues Atlanta at all. I'm probably not about that whatsoever. But yeah, the contracts could work. And then either way, you're probably rerouting Michael Porter Jr. to a third team. Maybe Golden State's getting involved. Maybe the Clippers are getting involved. Somebody that could use Michael Porter Jr.'s assistance. Maybe Milwaukee gets involved. So I would say Brooklyn is a team to keep an eye on. They kind of need that franchise star, a big name, comes to Brooklyn. They have the cap space, and they don't own their first round pick next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want to be aggressive. Although they could have a ton of cap space in 2027, and that's when Giannis is a free agent, Jokic, Donovan Mitchell. Like, I don't know how many of those guys are going to sign extensions. I don't know how realistic we're basically doing the 2019 offseason in 2027 with the Nets, or maybe they're able to acquire some guys. It does feel like Jordi Fernandez is getting the most out of his players, though, so they could be an attractive spot. In this row, obviously no Detroit, no Indiana, no Cleveland. Chicago, I don't really like it. I don't think you're doing one Giddey for Trae Young. And I don't know if Trae Young and Giddey really make sense. Like, I guess I can't really rule Chicago out. This just feels like if Chicago did this, it's just like the same thing with them. They just want to be in that playing tournament every single year. And who's better over the last 4 years of being in the playing tournament than Trae Young? So, yeah, you can get there matching salary-wise. Like, you could do Vucevic and Patrick Williams or something stupid like that. Like, that matches the salary easy. One, I don't think Atlanta wants Patrick Williams. Two, I don't think Chicago. Like, if they do this trade, I'll come on here and I'll say how much I hate it for Chicago. So I don't want to even think about that right now. In this row, we have two teams. Now, Orlando could have been a sneaky Trae Young team pre-Desmond Bane, pre-Anthony Black breakout. I don't think that's happening anymore. Miami, they've kind of been linked to all these guys that are point guards as of late. John Morant, LaMelo Ball, James Harden over the years, Damian Lillard as well. So Miami could make sense in a way. You do have Tower Heroes, kind of expiring contract. It could get you close in a way. Say you do Tower Hero and you do Simone Fontecchio. Does that work financially? I don't know. Yeah, it does work financially. And I don't even know if you'd have to throw in a first round pick. Like, who has more trade value now, Trae Young or Hero? I'd assume Hero because he has one more guaranteed year. Trae isn't guaranteed. And it's also like $14 million less. I'm going to assume, though, on their next deals, Trae Young still makes more. So that is something. Now, if you're trying to pair up Trae Young and Tower Hero, which I don't know how I feel about that defensively, we could do expiring money of Terry Rozier and Norman Powell, which I think should work financially. It does. And then Miami would trade. See, they can't trade this, I think, until the offseason. Like, say they do a 2031 first or something like that. Like, that could be a deal for sure. Now you have Trae Young, Tower Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Khalil Ware, Bam Adebayo. You keep Jovic, you keep Jaquez, you keep Yakuchonis and all those guys. And you get a good player in Trae Young, who obviously has his limitations, but I don't know. I don't know how Spo feels about Trae Young. I don't even think Pat Riley really likes the guy of Trae Young. Like, that's not really been the Heat point guards of the past. Like, your Davion Mitchells of the world, your Kyle Lowry's of the world. These guys are going to dive for loose balls, that are going to lock in defensively, that are still going to be good passers, but not score first guys in a way. And Trae is a great passer, but I feel like sometimes, I don't know, maybe he needs to play with Tower Hero and he needs to play with Bam. Jalen Johnson has been a pseudo number one at times this year, but I do wonder if Trae Young is better operated as like a 19-10 guy rather than like a 25-9 guy, just because you'd rather take Trae Young with better shot selection and on a lesser volume, but can still get to his assist totals in a way. Milwaukee, this feels like a team where I could see this happening 100%. This is the last-ditch effort to get Giannis something. It didn't work with Damian Lillard. I don't think it would work with Trae Young, but Trae Young is 27 years old, and you may look at him and say, we can get Trae Young for Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, and a first-round pick. I mean, yeah, I think like you could trade away your 2031 first. Should you? Or your 2032 first. Should you? Probably not. Sorry, you actually have to throw in, I think, like a Gary Harris in this deal. I did try this yesterday. So you throw in Gary Harris to Atlanta. I think that works out financially. And it's a 3-for-1. It does work. So you get your Bruce Brown contract, and Kyle Kuzma's got 1 year left. You actually get a solid forward in Bobby Portis, and you get a first-round pick from Milwaukee in 2031, which I'd be very intrigued about for sure. So we could look at that one in a way. I don't think Milwaukee, like they can't give them their first round pick this year out of the swap, I think, until draft night, which they would make this trade in season, if anything. Now, you can also do it with Miles Turner, but I just don't see the reason for that whatsoever. You can maybe drop, like, I wonder, you could probably drop your 2031 first for Ryan Rollins as well, but that just feels like too much for Trae Young. I don't even know, like, say you get another shooter, which one, I don't even know if I mean, every team could use a Vic Krejci, but you have AJ Green and you have Gary Trent Jr. Like, do you need another guy in this role? But say you could do Trae Young and Vic Krejci, who's under a good contract going forward, and you're not giving up that first round pick. I would remove that. But that's if Ryan Rollins is in the deal. And thank God Milwaukee is Ryan Rollins this year. But I think Ryan Rollins and Trae Young would actually work. So I don't think you're trading Ryan Rollins in this deal whatsoever. I think that's wishful thinking. But I do think you got to trade away like a 2031 first, because you can't trade any of these first. Yeah, like you could trade a 2027 first if you could. But you're probably going to have to do Gary Harris, maybe Amir Coffey. Can you do Amir Coffey instead? Who's not really in the rotation as much. And then you're not getting Vic Krejci. So I think that will work financially still. Let me just take that out. Yeah, so that works. Or no. Well, Vic Krejci's out, so why does it have it in? Can we remove Vic Krejci, please? I just want to see if Amir Coffey works. Okay, now this might be bugging. Okay, I know this does work. Once again, or no, you'd keep the first round pick in the deal because you're not throwing in Ryan Rollins, because I don't think Kuzma and Bobby Portis equals Trae Young. You got to throw a first round pick. Maybe there's a top 3 protection on that. Like, you can't throw a protection in this game, but maybe there's a top 3 protection. That could probably make a little bit more sense. Gives Milwaukee a little bit of a hedge there. I actually think this one could happen. Like, I could see this being the last ditch effort. And then your peak lineup is Giannis, Miles Turner in the front court, Ryan Rollins and Trae Young in the backcourt, and AJ Green at the 3. Yeah, that could work. Maybe you run 3 guard lineups with Trae Young, Kevin Porter Jr., and Ryan Rollins. Don't really love that. Gary Trent Jr. could be at the 3. Taurean Prince, if he's healthy again this season, could be at the 3. So that's something. I think Milwaukee makes, like, I could see it. Would I do it if I were Milwaukee? No. I'd probably trade Giannis if I were Milwaukee, but that's like the last-ditch effort. Knicks, no. Magic, no. Sixers, no. Okay, so you could maybe talk about a Raptors or Wizards deal. We'll start up with the Raptors first, because they may look at, okay, we could go from Emmanuel Quickley to Trae Young. We have a top 6 defense right now. Toronto, really nice win against Orlando. They are the 7th ranked team defensively, so we can actually surround Trae Young with good defenders. Now, you'd be downgrading defensively in the backcourt, going from Emmanuel Quickley to Trae Young, but you could see this as an upgrade. You could maybe walk in Trae Young to that Brandon Ingram extension. I don't know if Trae Young would take that, but you'd kind of need, like, okay, I will do that. You're probably not moving Jakob Poeltl in this deal, but I think Ochai Agbaji, Emmanuel Quickley, once again, I don't know if Atlanta wants to take on this contract, which has about 3 more years after this year at a crazy amount. Like, say you throw in Grady Dick, who's having a down year in a way. Does that even work out financially? No, because Toronto is so hard capped right now because their team is so expensive at the moment. Does this hard cap? I think this hard caps Toronto. Yeah, this is actually tougher than I think for Toronto. I mean, okay, so say instead of the young guys. Say you do RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. Does that work for Trae Young? By $6 million. And then could you send Luke Kennard back? Let me just see if this works. Okay, so this works. You could do Quickly and Barrett for Young and Kennard once. Like, I don't like this for Atlanta. I'd rather have the cap flexibility moving forward. I'd rather honestly just Trae Young's contract expire than take back Quickly's contract right now, who's not a terrible player this year. Quickly, he's had his good games, he's had his bad games. Like, he played bad against the Warriors in the first quarter, and he really turned that game around. And I like Quickly's defense. I think him and Dyson Daniels could be an intriguing backcourt. Both guys can be on ball and off ball. And you can kind of have Quickly be that 2 guard with Dyson being the 1. RJ would maybe get rerouted to a third team. Sacramento, New Orleans, somebody takes a flyer on RJ, the Clippers. And then I'd probably want a first rounder from Toronto as well because of Quickly's long-term money. So say you get Toronto's like lottery protected first round pick this year, which I think could make sense. And now I know Toronto wants to move Pirtle. I don't know if anybody's taking that Pirtle contract, but say it's Pirtle and Scotty in the front court, or heck, Scotty and CMB in the front court. And then you have Trae Young at the 1. You can have Luke Kennard at the 2, probably not because of defense. So you can have Jacoby Walters, played good this year. You can have Grady Dick at the 2. You can keep Agbaji here at the 2. Probably not going to happen. Or Jamal Shed. So you can actually have Shed and Trae Young in the backcourt because Shed can help out Trae Young defensively. And then you have Ingram, Scotty, Pirtle. They might view as like, okay, we got Brandon Ingram for 30 cents on the dollar. Let's go out and get Trae Young for 30 cents on the dollar as well. So that could be something to maybe keep an eye on if Toronto thinks they can get an extension done with Trae Young. That doesn't feel like a Masai move, but I wonder if that could be a Bobby Webster move. And then my other one is the Washington Wizards. So the Washington Wizards own their first round pick next year so it's not like the exact thing as the Nets, but they may look at this as like, are we ever convincing a star to come to DC? We're not convincing Giannis. KD was the pipe dream once when we had Wall and Beal from the DMV area. Maybe we signed somebody else, but we have a chance to get this absolute floor raiser. We're okay paying Trae Young $50 million for the next 3 years because we have Sarr and all these guys under their rookie contracts. And I know Trae Young isn't like a culture changer, but man, like Alex Sarr's development, Koulibaly's development, Trey Johnson's development, I think like offensively is very positive from trading for Trae Young. And once again, you're getting him for like a kind of like a discount. So say, I don't know who Atlanta would prefer between Middleton and McCollum. Let's just say McCollum's been a little bit better this year, but say it's Middleton. So Middleton is your matching salaries, your Bruce Brown. Also, like, unlike Kuzma, is a free agent. So, hey, you get out of that $33 million if you're Atlanta. You're not getting Sarr. You're not getting Johnson. You're not... I don't think you're getting Bilal. Maybe it's Bub. Maybe it's Whitmore. Maybe it's Riley. It's not Keyshawn. I think they would like to get Bub. Washington would probably inch more towards Whitmore, but I don't think anybody's really trading for Cam Whitmore. Say it's Bub. Say you got to give something to get something. Say it's Bub, Middleton, and a Portland first-round pick in 2029 for Trae Young. Once again, I feel like you're getting Trae Young for kind of a discount here for his production, and now you have Trae Young, Trey Johnson in the backcourt. Is it good defensively? No, but I think you will take the defensive hit there with Sarr as a rim protector, with Keyshawn George and Bilal Koulibaly. You have 3 good defenders still out there, and you don't have to play Trae Young and Trey Johnson 35 minutes a night, both those guys out there. You could stagger the minutes a little bit in a way, and you can have like a better defender. You'll still have cap space in the offseason. Maybe it's Corey Kispert in the steal instead of Bub Carrington. Like maybe Bub's a little bit too rich. Maybe it's like Whitmore and somebody else, but Bub gives them a scoring guard off the bench in Atlanta. You get a first round pick from Portland, or it could be a swap in a way in 2029. That's from the Denny trade. And then you get an expiring contract. So Washington could make sense. It's an in-division trade. I don't know if Atlanta would do that. And then that's pretty much it for Eastern Conference teams. So we have Brooklyn. We have Miami, maybe less Miami. It just doesn't feel like a Trae Young team. Or they're a Trae Young, like team that wants Trae Young. Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Washington, sneaky Toronto, but I don't know if they're going to mess things up because Toronto is 20-14 this year. All right, so now let's get to the Western Conference teams where I don't think it's that many either. So this top row, Dallas, Denver, Golden State, Houston. We'll start off with Dallas. So one, I don't know, like Trae Young is from Texas, but I think Tim McMahon of ESPN reported that they're not even interested in Trae Young. So this would have to be like Trae Young going to a third team, which I don't know. I just don't think this is really happening. I don't like Trae Young is 27, 28 years old. He fits the timeline with Cooper Flag a little bit better than Kyrie Irving. And I don't think you're doing a Kyrie Irving for Trae Young trade right now. You do get 6 years younger, but you get a little bit more expensive. You got to pay Trae Young. I just don't see this happening, to be honest with you. Like, if Kyrie gets traded and you now have, like, Trae Young, AD, but you pretty much, like, you can't trade Gafford and Clay. I mean, like, no, because Dallas is so hard capped at the first apron. It's impossible to get Trae Young unless AD is on the table, or Kyrie. So you can't move PJ this year. Say you do Caleb Meyer. I just want to see if this works. I don't think this gets close there financially. There is a $6 million wiggle room, but Dallas is hard capped at the first apron, so it makes it incredibly tough. Maybe in the offseason, like, yeah, I would give this up for Trae Young. I would. Trae Young and Kyrie Irving does not work defensively in the backcourt, but hey, at least we got talented players here, and we don't own our first round pick in 2027. That also could give Dallas an incentive to go out and make a move. I just don't think Trae Young for Anthony Davis really makes sense for either team, to be honest with you. Like, I don't hate Trae Young in Dallas, who's actually been like a good defensive team this year, and they just miss Kyrie so much. This would be just like a next year thing. Like, if Kyrie gets traded, they don't have a point guard. Trae Young's from Texas. We have good defensive ecosystem around him. Maybe. I just don't think that happens right now. Denver, no. Golden State, like, if they can't get anybody else for Kuminga, Trae Young and Steph just doesn't make sense. They tried Chris Paul and Steph. And then Houston, people will throw out there. I don't think makes sense. So you get Trae Young in Texas. You'd have to trade Fred VanVleet in this deal. I don't think you can really play Trae Young and Reed Shepherd in a playoff series. They're going to just get hunted way too much. Fred VanVleet can veto a trade because of his extension. You can do Dorian Finney-Smith, let's just say, and like, you can't really poison pill Jabari. I mean, maybe you could. So this works out financially. I mean, Atlanta might like Fred VanVleet long term. You get Steven Adams, not back in Atlanta. I don't know why I thought he played for Atlanta. You get Finney-Smith. Maybe you get a first round pick. Maybe you get a first round pick. I just don't think Houston does this. Maybe they think they have this window. Like, yes, you can stagger Reed Shepherd's minutes and Trae Young's minutes. I just don't think they're going to go out and get Trae Young. I think, one, I don't know if Fred VanVleet would waive that. Two, I just don't know how aggressive they're going to be. It's like, they have the second best net rating in basketball, I believe, still. Second best net rating. Does that mean, like, okay, we're really good, we don't need to make a major splash? Or, like, Kevin Durant's, like, he's not getting any younger. We need to get something that can help us out this year, but you need Fred VanVleet to waive that contract. Lakers, no. Grizzlies, no. There's no job for Trae Young swap. I mean, the Clippers, who says no James Harden for Trae Young? I don't know who says no to that, to be honest with you, because James Harden can help out Atlanta this year and next year. They don't own their first round pick this year, so they could still go for it in a way, and that's what value James Harden can provide you. And yeah, like, Trae Young is 8 years or so, almost a decade younger than James Harden. Like, that's just the idea. That's the only thing that would make sense here. I'm not even going to go into it. You can let me know, Clippers fans, what you think. Like, Minnesota, they need a point guard. Ant is, I think, a good enough of a two-way player. You have Gobert at the 5 spot defensively, but it gets really difficult here because this team does not have much depth in terms of tradable contracts. So are you ready to send Naz Reid to Atlanta, DiVincenzo to Atlanta, and Mike Conley to Atlanta? I think you're okay trading these two, DiVincenzo and Conley. Are you okay trading Naz Reid for Trae Young? I don't even know if this works out financially, and if it doesn't, this gets really difficult. Okay, so yeah, this hard caps them at the first apron. You'd have to throw in, I mean, say I just throw in Dillingham, and then we've got, like, Krejci coming back, theoretically. Okay, so that works. That does work. This 4 for 2. I mean, I don't think you're losing sleep over Dillingham, Conley, or DiVincenzo for Trae Young, but can you stomach trading away Naz Reid? And say you get Vic Krejci. So I could see it. Like, your playoff lineup is Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Gobert. That's solid. That's solid. And then you got Vic Krejci coming off the bench. You got the bench is not good. I don't like their bench after this trade. For Atlanta, like, you get Naz Reid, who could play out there with Jalen Johnson. He could play out there with Kristaps Okongwu. DiVincenzo is another good guard for you, an upgrade over Luke Kennard. And you take a flyer on Rob Dillingham. Maybe there's a pick swap down the line as well. It's really tough. You could probably just do the same thing with Randall in a way. So say you do no Naz Reid, but you do Randall. I think you can maybe keep Dillingham in this. But once again, why does Atlanta... I mean, Atlanta might not be opposed to Julius Randle. Like, this works financially. No Dillingham in this trade. I don't know why they have Dillingham there. Like, no Dillingham in this trade, and it's a 3 for 1. I don't know. You have Randle and Jalen Johnson. Don't love that defense. Something. It's something. What you could do is kind of crazy here. Could you do DiVincenzo and Gobert? Which, for Trae Young, just, I feel like, no. You should, or no. I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should do that. I mean, could you do Gobert and Conley for Trae Young? You can get kind of close. Once again, I don't know why Atlanta would really want Gobert at his age. I mean, it's not the worst contract in the world, but I just don't know if they're a Gobert team. You reunite him with Quinn Snyder. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for either team because who the hell is going to play defense on that Timberwolves team? Jaden McDaniels can't guard everybody. This row, like, I don't think the Pelicans, they have Murray. Maybe there's Murray's not going back to Atlanta. Jordan Poole's not going to Atlanta. You're not reuniting Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I'm out of that one. Portland, we can get into, but Phoenix, it's tough as well. They may be like, okay, we're really good this year without Jalen Green really playing for us. Could we do Jalen Green and Royce O'Neal for Trae Young? Like, that probably works out financially. You're getting Trae Young for 30 cents on the dollar with this deal. You don't have to trade any draft capital. Trae Young and Devin Booker's fun offensively. Trae Young doesn't fit what Jordan Knott's building, where it's just guys flying around defensively, physical, going over screens, can guard multiple positions. Just doesn't really make a lot of sense for what they're building, although you can get there financially. Portland, I mean, you have a good defensive ecosystem in a way, like Kamara, Klingon, Drew is hurt. I mean, what are they defensively this year? They're 20th, but they've had their injuries. So say you're sending $46 million of Trae. Like, you can get there with Drew or Jeremy Grant. I don't know who would be the guy. Like, I don't know if Atlanta wants Jeremy Grant. Like, say you're trading Drew and you're trading time, or say you do Thibault, and, like, I don't think Scoot's got to be in the trade. Like, that works financially. I don't know. I don't really know if I like Trae Young and Denny Avdija on the same team. This blocks Scoot. You have Dame coming back, so does Trae Young and Dame make a lot of sense? I don't really know if I like this a lot for Portland. It was just like throwing them out there. Like, you never know. They could get in there. Like, who's trading for Trae Young at this point, right? And then the last three here, San Antonio, no, obviously. Sacramento is probably the last, like, he's probably the most realistic Western Conference team, just because the Kings have been, like, wanting this franchise point guard since they traded away Fox and Halliburton. They had two, and now they have zero. You can easily do a 1-for-1 Trae Young for Zach LaVine. So say you do Trae Young, or say you do Zach LaVine and a 2027 unprotected swap or first round pick, and now you have Trae Young in Sacramento. You extend him. Russ isn't here next year. You can move on from Schroeder, and then he's your clear point guard. And yeah, like, I don't think you want to pair up Trae Young and Zach LaVine. I just don't think that really works. I mean, you could get there theoretically. You could do DeRozan, who they could waive at the end of the year. You could do Schroeder. Welcome back to Atlanta. So that actually works, these two. I mean, say you do an unprotected 27 first, you get Schroeder, knows Atlanta. You get DeMar DeRozan, who you can kind of wave in a way. I mean, this one might be more realistic. Oh my God, now you have, I mean, people would joke a ton about a LaVine, Sabonis, Trae Young trio. Those guys making over $150 million next year. Oof. And I don't really think Sabonis for Zach LaVine, or excuse me, Sabonis for Trae Young works. So Sacramento, I think, is probably the most realistic Western Conference team if it were to happen. And then Utah, I just think of the pre-Keontae George emergence, I could see it. I just don't think Trae Young and Keontae George really make sense together. I don't think there's a Trae Young for Lowry Markkanen trade. So say you do Nurkic, you do Kyle Anderson, does that work financially? No. Say you do, okay, yeah, this is going to be really tough to work out financially. Say you do George Niang. Yeah, I mean, there's probably no Atlanta trade, to be honest with you. I guess that does work. I mean, oh God, how low is Trae Young's value? I mean, I would want at least one of these young guys, like Filipowski or Sensabaugh. Say you get Sensabaugh back, or maybe you get Walter Clayton back. Let's say you do Walter Clayton. And then we have, just because there's so many guys going out, say you get, maybe you get Keaton Wallace, who, you know, people don't mind. Let's say you get Keaton Wallace. So it's just literally three veterans. Welcome back to it. I'm surprised Atlanta could reacquire Georges Niang, but they can't Terrence Mann. Interesting. And then Trae Young, Keaton Wallace. I guess I turned restrictions off, so maybe that's why. For these three and Walter Clayton, so you get Walter Clayton under a rookie deal, you get cap relief. Maybe there's like a very C-tier first-round pick. Utah has plenty of those. Say they get the Lakers first-rounder next year, Minnesota swap, something like that, and it's basically Walter Clayton for Trae Young and a first. And now you have Trae Young and Keontae George. Once again, I mean, you're not convincing guys to sign to Utah right now, and there hasn't been a track record of that. So then it's like Trae Young, Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Lowry Markkanen, Walker Kessler. I mean, plenty of talent in your incoming first-round pick. Potentially incoming first-round pick is Utah's giving it to OKC right now. Yeah, that's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. Did you agree with some of those? Did you disagree? Which team makes the most sense? You can let me know. Maybe there's more teams than I thought that can at least get there financially, but does it really make sense for like a Portland, a Utah, Chicago, Miami to go out and get Trae Young? Let me know down below. Catch you on the next one. Peace.